Hey everyone, and welcome back to Shade Review. In today's video, we are reviewing the Dita Cooper sunglasses. But first off, thank today's video sponsor, our own website, shadereviewstore.com, the absolute best place to buy designer sunglasses, just like these, up to 80% off the original MSRP. Again, the website there is shadereviewstore.com. Check it out. So let's go ahead and pop the sunglasses on face and talk about the dimensions. These have 53mm lenses and a 19mm bridge, and the size is going to be best for the average size face shape. Probably about 80% of Americans are going to fit these absolutely perfectly. Now, as far as the styling of these frames go, I do think these look really nice and classy on the face. They definitely kind of have this wide, squared off lenses to them, but they definitely have kind of modern punk vibes to them as well, with kind of how they come out here on the edges, and just a really interesting and very good looking pair of frames in my opinion. Now, the exact colorway that I'm wearing today's video have Dita's amber maple acetate frames, which look absolutely beautiful here on the front. And then if we move down to the outside temples, we can see this is a kind of half metal, half acetate material, and the metal is made out of an antique 28 karat gold frame, which is absolutely gorgeous, and that matches really good with these absolutely beautiful green lenses. They're kind of like a bottle green lens, and they just really pop when wearing these frames outdoors. Now, these lenses are a CR39 lens. So they are a polymer plastic lens, so they're not going to have quite the same clarity as an all-glass lens. They're not going to have the same scratch resistance as an all-glass lens either. So definitely a couple downsides there, but as far as weight goes, these come in at, I believe, 24 grams. So they are very lightweight, and you can wear these all day long without any discomfort. But if they had all-glass lenses, they'd probably weigh closer to about 30 to 32 grams, and then you'd have red marks on the nose when wearing them after like 4 hours or longer. With these, you definitely don't have that problem as well. So definitely some pros and cons to the polymer lenses here, but the optical clarity of these is still really good, just not quite as good as an all glass lens would. Now, if we take a closer look at the frames, we can see this kind of metal accent here that goes on the front. That's not just there for show, that is actually what connects the temples to the front of the sunglasses, which is a really cool design. So the hinge is not there like it would be on a typical pair of sunglasses. It's completely different. So with this pair, it's much more on the middle, which is a really cool design, and I really like the way that these frames fold up because of that. Just a really interesting design. But unfortunately, there is going to be a couple negatives here with this design. There is only one screw and then one little support screw that's embedded into the acetate that's going to connect the entirety of the temples to the front. So we're probably not going to have quite as good or as long longevity with this pair of frames as we would have something like an original pair of Ray-Ban Wayfarers. This design is much more susceptible to breaking. They're still very strong. They don't feel like they're going to break or anything like that, but it's just not simply going to have the strength as something where the hinge is embedded into both the front and the temple. So that's definitely something to know with these frames. Now, as far as optical clarity of these go, they are still really good, even though they're a CR39 lens, and I really do like the tint from these green lenses. They're of course going to block 100% of UVA and UV rays. They also have this really nice anti-reflective material here on the inside of them, which is going to help reduce sunlight coming in, bouncing off the lens at an angle. Now, as far as the build quality goes, these are built really good. Everything here feels really nice and substantial, and the acetate is absolutely beautiful, and they are made in Japan. They're going to say that here in the inner right ear rest of the frames, they say made in Japan, and then in the inner right temple of the frames, we can see a little Dita Shield logo. It says Cooper, and then we have the exact model number and everything like that in there. And then if we take a look at the inner left temple of the frames, we can see it says Dita, and we can see the little shield logo there as well on the metal of the frames. And then in the inner left acetate ear rest, we can see the exact lens size and dimensions of these frames as well. So overall, these are built really good. The only downside again has to do with the fronts here. Because of this design where there's only one screw and then a support screw, which is kind of like a half screw there, holding the fronts onto the temples, they're going to squeak just a little bit. So that definitely makes the frames feel a little bit less premium than a traditional pair of frames that don't have that, type of hinge. So definitely some pros and cons here. I love the way they look with the hinge. So there's a lot of technology going in here. And again, there's nothing wrong with them. They're not loose or anything like that. There's just a little bit of squeaking here because the metal is just going to be rubbing up against the acetate just a little bit. But again, not too big of a problem, but definitely my biggest complaint with these frames. Now, as far as coverage from the sun goes, these definitely don't have the best coverage from sun because they do have these squared off lenses. So here up top, we can see there's a pretty big gap that lets sunlight in unprotected. And then here on the sides, again, there is a massive gap that does let sunlight in unprotected, but they do have the anti-reflective material on the backside, which definitely does help reduce squinting. But of course, if the sunlight is just coming in through that gap, of course, there's going to be squinting, and you're also not going to have that UV protection as well. So definitely not the most practical pair of frames, but I definitely think they make up for that with their really, really good and interesting styling. Now, as far as pricing on these goes, these originally cost $554 directly from Dita's website and most stores. However, these have actually been discontinued for a couple of years. That's why we were able to get a bunch of these brand new old stock for only $200 on our website. And I think for $200, this is a really, really good looking pair of frames. I don't think you can beat the price of only $200, but I think the original price of $554 is definitely very steep for what you're getting with this pair of frames. But at $200, I think it's a really, really good bargain. And I think you guys are really going to like these because these are still built like a $500 pair of sunglasses. They just do have a couple of those downsides there. Personally, I would love an all glass lens in a frame like this with the acetate. That's just kind of what I really like. And all of our people usually does stuff like that. I think Dita absolutely knocked it out of the park with these frames. I think they look really classy and nice and just kind of modern and sleek as well, but nothing too crazy. They're not pushing the boundaries too much like they do with some of their other pair of frames. These are still relatively subtle and classy in my opinion. But that's all I got for in this video. Let me know what you think about these frames in the comment section down below. Do you love these? Do you hate these? Do you own a pair? And if you do, what do you think about them? Let's start a conversation in the comment section down below, and I'll be sure to be involved in that. But that's all I have for in this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give me a big thumbs up down below. And of course, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And then you'll be notified every single time I upload a brand new video, just like this one, to our YouTube channel. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.